alcoholic. The alcoholic. Well, he's a really good worker. It's like he'll have some sobriety time and then he'll like show up to work drunk. But I guess like one of our other coworkers found one of those like those little miniature bottles of wine. Like it wasn't like an actual bottle of wine, but it was like one of those I guess you can get them at a gas station now. You can get wine at a gas station and it has like 3 glasses of wine in this like little container. And he just like showed up to work and like drank it and like threw it in the bathroom trash. But he ended up cussing out my boss, the one I've told you about. It's a narcissist. But she remained chill, which I'm proud of her for, because she rarely does that. But she probably knew that it was just going to make the situation worse if like she reacted to it. But yeah, I mean, he essentially quit. I mean, if he didn't quit, he's going to get fired. Because you can't keep showing up to work acting drunk and then denying that the bottles in the trash can belong to you. You know? The last time that I drank, when I passed out, when I just like collapsed onto the floor, I told him that I was drunk. And I mean, I got fired because I was honest about it. If I hadn't been honest about it, I probably would have been able to keep my job. Because practically everybody that I worked with at the time was an alcoholic. But they were better at functioning. I chaired this meeting last week. And there was this guy that came in. I guess he got another DUI or something, and he's freaking out because he is worried he's going to lose custody of his kids or something, and that's a genuine fear. But there's kind of this rule that if there's a newcomer, you have to do a first step meeting. And I was annoyed, but that's me being selfish and self-centered. Like, why can't we talk about what I want to talk about? But I don't know, I'm one of the few people that didn't ever have to work a first step. I mean, it's not really something you work, it's something that you admit. We admitted we were powerless over blank. In this case, it's alcohol, but you can replace it with anything that you're consumed by, you know? This thing is eating you up. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, and our lives have become unmanageable. Well, my life was unmanageable, which is why I drank the way that I did. So I knew that long before I ever went to a treatment center. Long before other people were accusing me of being an alcoholic, I admitted that I was an alcoholic. And what's really funny to me, I guess, to me only, is that people just don't believe in self-awareness, you know? So, like, I will tell people things like, yeah, I'm allergic to alcohol. Every time that I drink it, I just break out and fuck it, you know. Or I'm allergic to relationships. Every time I'm in one, I'm suicidal. Okay? I'm allergic to anything that normal people do. Every time that I'm in a social situation that I don't want to be in, where people are doing things that sheep do best, like, you know, watch sports, things like that, you know, I understand why I have the beliefs that I do, and I don't want to be part of that, you know? Like, I don't desire to be like them and do what they do. And I've never understood why people drink non-alcoholically anyway, you know? It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, if I'm not going to drink the whole thing, I'm not going to drink at all. Because I'm just very much an all or nothing person, you know? Same with cigarettes. What's funny is whenever I'd buy like a bag of, I buy like an inexorbitant amount of marijuana, and I'd be like, this shit's gonna last me a while, you know? And I just smoke all the time, and I'd smoke other people out, and smoke extra, you know? Stupid. Like, that's the misconception about making more money. The more money you make, the more money you're gonna spend. Because you have to really change your habits, you know? You have to change your habits. You have to change the way that you look at it. So if you have more of the thing, you're gonna do more of the thing. You know? The same man will drink again. Anyway. Yeah, so I did this first step meeting, and I hate those meetings because I just feel like so at odds with everybody around me. Because a lot of people, it's like they have to be beaten. They call it beaten into a state of reasonableness, or like being granted the gift of desperation. You know, they have to be on their knees in order to really receive God, in order to even like accept that maybe there's something bigger than themselves that could help them. And I don't know, maybe I've just always had that gift of desperation like all my life, because I felt so separate from the world. And I resent people that try to comfort me. Like, I reject them. So I don't know if that's just a cluster A thing, or like we're just so paranoid that we think that everybody's lying no matter what. So even the people that agree with me or understand where I'm coming from, I'll convince myself that, you know, they're full of shit. You know? But me, like, admitting this stuff is something that a lot of people don't know how to do. Me being honest about my hang-ups. And I know it probably comes across as like, I'm just not trying anymore, I've just given up. But it's like, if I keep trying the same thing, and other people tell me to do it, like, so it's like, okay, with liquor, like, I could drink different types of liquor. I could drink wine, hardly ever drink wine, but I could drink beer only. I could wait until midnight to drink. I could only drink with other people, or I could only drink by myself. That was way better. It's like the same shit would just keep happening. It's very similar to me being in relationships. You know, I could date older, I could date younger, I can date people that have worked on themselves, I can date people that refuse to work on themselves. And like, I've thought about it, like with women. Like, would I be like more satisfied with a woman? I probably would, actually. But it's just not even worth it. And it's not because of religion. It's like, I'm just unreliable. Like, I hate it when people ask me to do things because I'm like, will I actually do that? Like, can I actually trust myself to get up and do that? You know? And then I feel like a piece of shit. I feel really guilty because I say no. Because I have that boundary. That's like, I realize this about myself. And because I realize this about myself, I'm not going to lie to you. All because I want to please you. For the time being. I'm going to end up not pleasing you in the long run, you know? That's how I look at it. I'd rather disappoint you now than disappoint you even more severely in the future. And so people can look at that as like, I'm just immature and I don't want to grow up and I've got too much pride and like all this shit. It's like, I wouldn't dare ask a control freak to stop being controlling. I wouldn't dare ask a manipulative person to stop being manipulative. I wouldn't dare ask a liar to stop lying, you know? Because I understand the way that they're wired. And I understand that that wiring is for a reason. And it could be a number of things that underlie whatever the surface is. And this is what a lot of people refuse to see. They refuse to look at the root cause. And even if you understand the root cause, that person has to understand it and be willing to dig it up and talk about it and be uncomfortable and cry and scream and throw shit, you know? And most people aren't willing to do that because they'd rather just stay in that false comfort. You know, whether it's the false comfort of a substance or it's the false comfort of a shitty relationship or it's the false comfort of a television show, which actually isn't a false comfort because TV is actually pretty good. But, you know, I just think, like, the more that I look at everything, the more I'm like, actually, like, there's nothing we can do about anything. Well, involving, like, other people. You know, like, the only thing that you can do is work on yourself. And be more and more mindful of, like, your own behavior and like why you do the things that you do. But yeah, I'm definitely not a people pleaser. I'm strictly a people displeaser. Like if I happen to please you, that's wonderful, but don't count on it. You know? Don't count on it. But I think that one of the main reasons why we end up in these traps over and over and over again is because of that guilt complex. And sometimes I wish I were more sociopathic and then I wouldn't have to feel guilty about anything, you know? I wouldn't have this conscience, this pesky ass conscience that's like yelling at me. But is it really because like I hurt somebody?
Or is it because of how I look? I think this is the topic that I really want to bring up at the next meeting I chair. I volunteered to do this all month. Because I told myself that if I was going to get back into recovery, I was like really going to get back into it. It's like I ended up sharing something the other night at the meeting, and it almost sounded like I was sort of like humble bragging, and I wasn't trying to do that because it related to the topic. But it's like when we do good things, like we're not supposed to talk about them, you know? It's just supposed to be something that we do. We can put it in our little knapsack and be like, yeah, I'm a decent person because I did something good for the world and it helped this person out or it made this person's day. And, you know, this homeless person is currently in a crack house now because of me, because of that $20 that I gave him. This one time I gave a homeless man like a $20 bill, and he has never left the scene so quick. Because like I would encounter a bunch of homeless people at this coffee shop where I used to do stand-up at, and I gave this homeless dude some money, and yeah, he took off real fast. So but a lot of people would scold me for that. They'd be like, why are you giving him that much money? You want to know why I started doing that? One of my favorite singer-songwriters, who supposedly killed himself. I don't believe it. I think his girlfriend killed him. But we're not talking about Kurt Cobain. We're talking about Elliott Smith. Okay? After this happened, a bunch of his fans put out some of his like live stuff, like in concert. And in the liner notes, there's this long list of like fun facts about Elliott Smith that you would never guess. That was written by one of his friends. And one of them was that apparently Elliott would just go around the city and hand out $20 bills to homeless people. And I read that and I was like, that's amazing. That's why he didn't kill himself. There's no fucking way that he killed himself, because he was a saint. You know, when you do stuff like that, once again, not trying to brag about it. It's just like, it's the right thing to do, you know? And I talked about how you can't outgive God. So the reason why I shared this story is to illustrate that fact. It's not so I can brag about helping out homeless people, because I know what I'm helping them do, okay, for the most part. Some of them might go buy some food, but most of them are just going to go buy alcohol and drugs. I realize that. But that's none of my business, you know? And furthermore, why would I judge them for that? It was like they're living on the street and they probably experienced a lot of child abuse. You know, a lot of them have been trafficked, so they've been passed around so many times it's not even funny. So yeah, I can understand why they want to get high and drunk. But anyway. I don't just give them money either, like I talk to them. I talk to them for a while because they have really interesting stories. And they know the Bible, dude. They know the Bible. And so typically, like, I can talk to a homeless person about God for way longer. But yeah, the people that scoff at that, they just don't get it, you know? They think that, like, you're helping people, you know, make mistakes or whatever. But it's like, you don't know. You don't know their situations. Did you ask them? But yeah, so I shared this story because I thought it was really amazing. So like when I was on my way to North Nashville to go to this mic that was in the projects, if you've watched my channel for a while now, it was back in 2021. I was going to this bar. It was a black bar. And CJ, the loudest black bitch you'll ever meet. I know that really doesn't mean much considering, but she hosted this mic there. And they were randomly doing some sort of comedy contest. They never did that. But they randomly did it that night. And the prize was the exact amount that I had given away. So on the way there, I encountered 3 different homeless people and I gave them all $20. And then within less than an hour, I got all my money back. Because, you know, I got the best comedy set. Can you believe that? But yeah, I can understand why just even talking about that sounds like humble bragging, you know? I get it. But here's the thing, like when something like that happens, it's just so fucking cool that you want to share it, you know? But I can always rate a person's level of spirituality by how they react to that. So like I told a bunch of people at my church, I go to an Antiochian Orthodox church, okay? And I told them this story and they were all just like amazed, you know? They're like, that's God. That's God. Like you were doing the right thing. And God showed you that. God proved to you that that was the right thing. I told my parents, they were fucking pissed. They were like, why are you talking to homeless people? Why are you giving them money? You know, and I understand it's kind of a lot of money to like give to total strangers on the street. But like, yeah, it was the right thing to do. But yeah, like, just talking about it at this meeting, like I could tell just based off of the reaction of some of the people in the meeting that, you know, I mean, there's a reason why they go to AA. It's because they're really not naturally spiritual. A naturally spiritual person would not think twice about doing something like that, you know? And I really don't look at people, like, I know I probably sound like I look at people from a very haughty lens, but that's because I'm a comedian. I'm naturally very, very, what's the word? Misanthropic. So I just tend to shit on everything. Because societies tend to be pretty stupid, you know? They tend to be pretty stupid. And while that fact is a lot easier to state nowadays, because everyone's voluntarily autistic thanks to these phones, more and more people come forward with their negative sentiment towards the world than they used to. But, you know, I think that comedy is a place where you can just be unabashedly negative about things. I don't just want to be negative, though. I want there to be some solution to that. I mean, that is why I'm so spiritual. And that is why I do things like that. Because I see the good in people. Like, I see the God in the homeless. You know, because they really are, like, relying on God more than anybody else. I shouldn't say that, though, because I don't know that. I'm assuming that. I don't know that. I'm assuming because they don't have a house, they're doing that. But, you know, I'm sure that there are some, you know, homeless atheists out there. I'm sure there are plenty of homeless people that, you know, play the victim about their situation. But, yeah. I would just rather talk to humble people, though. You know? Humility goes a long way. And so I'm, like, hyper conscious of, like, how self-righteous I sound sometimes. And, like, if it's my ego that's responsible for me saying something or doing something, like, I just want to cut it out. But, you know, who am I? Maybe God's using that for good. You know? Just have to keep the faith, I guess.